Distinguished guests and members of Congress, good evening to you all, and thank you so much for joining us for this truly historic event. We're here to inaugurate the Congressional Caucus for the Advancement of Torah Values, a congressional member organization for the 117th Congress, and I have the Congressional Declaration right here, thanks to you and Chairman Queller. We live in a world filled with darkness, not only because of the coronavirus, but also because of the moral decay and the erosion of values we continue witnessing around us. Values that all decent people cherish and hold dear. This is a concerning trend that needs to be properly challenged. And it's through this very darkness that Rabbi Dovid Hofstedter, the leader of Dirshu, the largest Torah organization in the world, has chosen to play an instrumental role in helping establish a caucus dedicated to ensuring that these very same values are preserved. Rabbi Hofstedter is the son of Holocaust survivors, and somebody who drew on the unfathomable darkness his parents sustained in order to create the largest Torah organization in the world, bringing the light of Torah to Jews worldwide. Hitler's genocidal ways were not just meant to kill millions of Jews physically, but they were also meant to rid Jews of their faith. Through Rabbi Hofstedter's work in creating the largest Torah organization in the world, Dirshu, educating hundreds of thousands of Jews worldwide about Jewish texts, the rabbi has built and led an organization that serves as the single greatest revenge imaginable to Hitler. The Congressional Caucus for the Advancement of Torah Values is a direct outgrowth of Rabbi Hofstedter's life mission to ensure that Jewish values are preserved and promoted, and to ensure that Jewish continuity never subsides. The bipartisan nature of this caucus is reflected in the party affiliation of its distinguished chairman. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the caucus's chairman, Congressman Don Bacon, who's right here to my right, who's been, by the way, remarkable. And I want to make a special shout out. We have tremendous gratitude, Mark, to you, to the Congressman's Chief of Staff, who's been just amazingly helpful, and to Congressman Queller. Your decision to chair this caucus demonstrates your commitment to preserving our nation's moral fabric and the values on which our great country was founded. There's nothing partisan about preserving our nation's sacrosanct values, of exercising our religion and faith freely, and of ensuring the safety and security of the Jewish people. I thank both of you for having the courage of your convictions to stand up for what's right by deciding to serve as this caucus's honorable chairman. And lastly, I want to thank every single member of Congress here. Your participation in this evening's event sends a strong message to your constituents and to the American people more broadly, that our nation's best days are still ahead. Thank you so much. And with no further ado, I want to introduce our caucus's chairman, Congressman Don Bacon.
Thank you. Appreciate Josh's words. So Josh, thank you for that introduction and those opening comments. I want to thank you and Matt Keelan for helping make this reality. You know, leaders help people do the right thing, and this was a vision that I embraced, but was a vision that was started by you and Matt, so I want to thank you. Rabbi, it's sure good to have you here coming in from New York, and I admire you and I admire your team and your organization, the Dirshu, and we'll come back and talk more about that. The purpose of this is to to pledge our friendship to our Jewish friends and our brothers and sisters. Not only Israel, which I am been a defender of Israel, and I know our three congressmen here with us tonight, Dan Muser feels the same way, Brian Fitzpatrick and Brian Stile, friends of Israel, but also friends of the Jewish people everywhere. We are 100% stand with you and against anti-Semitism of any form. I don't care where it comes from, left or right. So that's really the purpose here. This is to ensure that we are that brotherhood and sisterhood with our Jewish brothers and sisters are strong, and that we stand by that. Now I was thinking today what to make comments on, and I see somebody sent out a tweet today, and I just happened to read it, and I loved it. It was from Genesis 26:4, and so when we talk about the Torah, I believe Torah is God's word. It was 100% accurate, 100% right when it was written, and it's still that way today. And so it's truth today. But Genesis 26:4, it says, I will multiply your offspring. This is to Abraham. As the stars of heaven, and will give to your offspring all these lands. And in your offspring, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. I thought it's good to have Congressman Cuellar here, too.
Hey, I was ready to
Yeah. But my point is, this verse, these Bible verses to me signify what's so good about this caucus that we're standing up. And I just want to share, when I was growing up, my dad would do devotions every day. Didn't always care for it at the time, but I know I benefited from it. He also made me go to church 3 times a week. Didn't always think that's what I wanted to do either, but I benefited from it. But my dad taught me it was important to know Genesis 12:3, when it says, I will bless those who will bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the peoples on the earth will be blessed through you. I believe that. Those who bless Israel will be blessed. It's one of the fundamental beliefs I have when it comes to America's dealings with Israel, but also to our citizens, our Jewish citizens. So I want that commitment to you, to Rabbi Hofstedter, but to all your team. That's where this caucus stands. And I do want to point out or highlight Josh's words, because I think they're so good, that the rabbi with Dirshu took an evil that occurred against his family. Obviously, 6 million Jews were murdered by the Nazis. But I think us as believers have a choice when we confront something like this. Do we wallow in hate? Do we wallow in revenge? Or do we turn evil and turn our actions into something positive and making a difference? And that's what I saw with the rabbi, and what Dirshu's done is try to turn what was an evil and turn that into a positive, into a light, into an action that makes a difference. And the Dirshu today is the largest organization teaching the Torah. That's incredible. And you're teaching the values that the Nazi nemesis was trying to defeat, and you're growing that family. And so you've turned a negative into a positive. And I wish all did that. We know so many people have been victims of various kinds of crimes. But those who could turn it into a positive outlet and make a difference, that's what God, I think, intends for us to do. So it's a pleasure to have Dan Muser here from Pennsylvania, Brian Fitzpatrick. I appreciate working with Congressman Cuellar. We're trying to get him to switch over to our side, but no. But he's been a good ally.
We got him right where we want.
He's more conservative than I am, by the way.
Actually, the Republicans get the majority. I'm going to see if I can get them back over there.
Yeah. But those are my comments tonight. It's a welcome to the rabbi, to your whole team. And I want to thank all of you for being tonight just to celebrate this first meeting of this caucus. And I hate to put Henry on the spot, but if you'd like to make a few comments, you're their co-chair.
A few words on that. Let me, first of all, say thank you so
Yes.
much, and thank you for the kind words. And I think what you said is so true. You know, when you look around, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a microphone. I thought it was a camera. Look at me over here, Michael. Okay, he's reading his notes. I think what the co-chair said is so right. You know, what we need to do is when we face evil, how do we turn that? How do we fight it? How do we turn that into good? How do we turn that into light? And I think this is what we're looking at. We know what happened many years ago during the last World War, but I think now some of the challenges we see, sometimes they're obvious, sometimes they're not very obvious, but we have to be able to have the strength so we know what's good and what's bad, what's moral, what's not moral. Basically what our parents taught us. We always say that our parents are always the first teachers. We have the formal education, but our parents are the first teachers that we have, because they're the ones that teach us what's moral, what's not moral, what's right, what's not right, what step to take. And this is what we need to do. So certainly this caucus is going to be so important in a bipartisan way. And certainly we want to make sure I certainly want to work with my liberal friends, that. I'm just kidding. But certainly we look forward to working together. I'll just say this. First time I ever visited Israel was in 2001. I was the Texas Secretary of State appointed by then Governor Rick Perry. And I went up there with my wife, and I can tell you that that trip changed my view of how I see Israel and why it's so important to make sure that we protect Israel. It is in a very dangerous neighborhood, if I can say that. And certainly as appropriators, we try to do everything to make sure that we appropriate the funding on it. And certainly we want to make sure, and I've taken different trips since then, and certainly want to, after we get this COVID out of the way, certainly want to take more trips, and I look forward maybe as co-chairs we can go visit on that. We'll love to do it on that. So we'll do that. So again, thank you so much, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
If I may just back up with some comments from what Henry said here. If I pass this microphone around. So I went to Israel when I was 15 years old, and it was a life-changing experience. When I went to the Holocaust Memorial, I had head knowledge, but as a 15-year-old, I didn't have the heart knowledge, and seeing that really had a profound impact. But I would like to just close with our comments. We know, I work with our Jewish community in Omaha, Republicans and Democrats, independents. The one thing we're hearing right now is an increase in anti-Semitism.
Yes.
And one thing we cannot do is politicize anti-Semitism. It's wrong whether it comes from white nationalists, whether it comes from folks in the Bronx, whether it's coming from a university. No matter the source, left or right, we just got to call it out for what it is and be American on this. But we know from talking to our friends there's this increase, and I think and I know from my friends, they're worried because they're worried about where's America going. And so I think as leaders, Republican, Democrat, we got to stand together and not beat each other over the head with this. We stand together and say it's wrong, and we don't care where it comes from. So that's another pledge we have to you, Rabbi, and your team. So thank you. So,
And if I could just make a quick comment on how beautiful this alliance is, and how Rabbi Hofstedter's vision for promoting Jewish values through this caucus, this is a representation of what America's meant to be, which is a bipartisan allegiance to fight hatred against Jews or any other form of bigotry and promote Jewish continuity and the security and safety of the state of Israel. So we're so grateful to Congressman Queller, to you, and Congressman Bacon,
yes, sir.
As always. Thank you so much. We're now going to have the privilege to hear from a man who is a genuine inspiration, not only to me, but to the hundreds of thousands of participants of the Dirshu educational program, I should say, worldwide. Somebody who is successful in the field of commerce, but he has a passion. And that passion is to promote Torah, to promote Jewish values, and to do what's right. And he does it in his spare time, but you wouldn't know it. You would think that it's his full-time job, because that's the level of dedication and devotion he has toward this organization. And the way the organization has grown and blossomed, not only here in the United States, but in France, in Australia, in London, in Manchester, all across the globe, is a testament to Rabbi Hofstedter's dedication to not only his faith, but his objective of bringing back the level of Jewish scholarship that existed predating the Holocaust to the levels it ought to be today. And I think today, by the way, with the inauguration of the Congressional Caucus for the Advancement of Torah Values, it's a wonderful representation of Rabbi Hofstedter's vision. And it's an outgrowth of everything he's managed to do with Dirshu. Just a constructive vision to promote positive things. And it gives me a great honor and privilege to introduce Rabbi Dovid Hofstedter.
You're here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I don't know if I'm an inspiration, but I have to tell you very honestly, I am very inspired and honored to be here. And your words were very inspiring, and it really is a privilege. It's a real privilege and honor to be here tonight. And really, thank you, all of you, and especially the ones that have really put in so much effort to make this caucus a reality. The first ever in the history of the United States Torah Caucus. It's the first Torah Caucus. And it is really a remarkable event, and I think it's a testament to the strength and vitality of the American democracy. It's a bipartisan coming together, and this is less than a century after World War II and the Holocaust, and less than a century after the Jewish people and their Torah were almost obliterated, wiped off the face of the earth. Here in Washington, some of the most influential lawmakers are coming together to affirm the existence, the growth, to foster the advancement of Torah and its ideals. I think this is absolutely remarkable. I think it's a great day for the Jewish people and many of your constituents, but I think it's great for America. I think it says something absolutely wonderful and great about the United States of America and the strength of its democracy. You know, this American democracy, if I can speak humbly, this American democracy is one of the greatest innovations of modern civilization. And America is one of the greatest innovations of modern civilization. It's a country, it's a nation that is at the forefront of all the major advancements in every field of human endeavor, has enriched, empowered worldwide people all over the world, has increased their lives and improved their lives. It's a nation that literally saved the world during and the aftermath of World War II. But when we look at America today, the soul of this great nation is in some ways, it's a tortured soul. In some regions of the country, it's conflicted as whether their heritage, the story of America, is the source of great national pride or shame. And it struggles. It struggles to project its ideals, its vision, its dreams to its youth, to future generations, let alone others. And it seems unsure whether to lead the world or whether to withdraw into itself. And it struggles mightily to achieve consensus on some of the most basic and fundamental issues. So why is this? This great nation that saved the world, that came together with one, that came together with courage and self-sacrifice and dedication to save the world. So what has transpired over the last few years? What's happened? What's happening in front of us? Every nation is based on values. Every nation is based on the foundation. Every nation is a foundation of values. And those values are what builds the nation, its dreams, its aspirations. And the values of this great nation, and many of them Torah values, have been under attack for so many years. Basic values, a deep respect for religion, human dignity, respect for human dignity, honesty, integrity, self-sacrifice, and so many others, charity, compassion, empathy. So many of these values, Torah values, which are the foundation of this nation, have been under attack for so many years, and therefore it undermines the very foundation of the nation. A country that does not have real respect for its traditions and gratitude to the people and those through self-sacrifice have built the nation, that's not the United States of America. A nation that doesn't have deep respect for religion and helps religious institutions grow and flourish, that doesn't fight hate and anti-Semitism, that's not the United States of America. And a nation that does not stand by its friends, that's not devoted to its friends through thick and thin, that's not the United States of America. It's tough times that we live in, but a fundamental Torah value is to resist venomous, acrimonious speech, particularly in the public realm. It's tough times that we live in, but the strength of this democracy has always been measured by how it's able to overcome the obstacles that are before it. We're not blind to the mistakes of the past. There are mistakes. Every person, every society makes mistakes. But individuals and societies that cannot get past grievances do not have a foundation for growth, a platform for growth as a society. A fundamental Torah value is forgiveness, as was mentioned. And we have to go forward. Yes, mistakes have been made. As was mentioned, my parents were Holocaust survivors. My wife's parents were Holocaust survivors. They suffered through the hell of the concentration camps, the torture, the hell of the concentration camps. I was one of the lucky children of survivors that I had a grandfather. Most didn't. I had a grandfather. And he also survived through the concentration camps, that hell. And he lived the rest of his life with the belief, with the feeling that all the millions that were carried in those cattle cars to the concentration camps to the death, that the Allies could have prevented that. That the Allies knew full well what was going on, that so many millions were being taken to the camps, and so many millions more were brought to a life of torture and pain and suffering. And they could have bombed those railway tracks, and they could have prevented it, but the world didn't care. And those evil monsters that were perpetrating those crimes knew that the world would turn a blind eye, and that's what emboldened them and helped them carry out those unspeakable crimes. And he lived his very last day with the feeling that he lost his beloved wife and his parents and his brothers and sisters and his community because the world did not care. My parents, my in-laws were younger. They were better equipped to move past the pain. They embraced the energy, the vitality, the creativity, the work ethic of the new world of America, and they built. They rebuilt their lives. They rebuilt their families. They built houses, they built apartment buildings and office buildings and shopping malls and hospitals and schools and synagogues. They magnificently built their lives. They embraced America and they built. They moved past it. And that is a challenge that we all have, is to retain the fundamental values and traditions that are so precious to us and rectify the sins of the past. King Solomon said that there is no so holy, righteous person that does good and never sins. Mistakes are part of human condition. That's part of human nature, part of the human condition. We all make mistakes, we all stumble, we all fall. But it's what we do with that. It's how we overcome that that defines us. We all make mistakes. The righteous shall fall 7 times and arise, says Proverbs. So the simple meaning of that verse is that even though the righteous fall 7 times, they'll pick themselves up and rise up again. Our contemporary rabbis have taught us that what means is that it's precisely because the righteous fall. It's because they fall that they are able to rise higher and go higher and higher, because failure and falling is a prerequisite for growth. We all fall. But a fundamental Torah value is deep introspection and looking deep into it, retaining our values, our traditions, and rectifying the past and going higher. And that's the challenge, and that's what we have to do. So let us embrace this, the mandate, the mission of this caucus, Torah values, retain these Torah values, advance these Torah values, fight against anti-Semitism, fight against hatred in all of its forms, fight for freedom of religion, fight for the beliefs, the values that made this country so great, fight for human dignity, and all the time being cognizant of the Torah value that's embedded in the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence. Thank you very much.
I love it.